Well, welcome. Welcome, parents. My name is Ian Solomon. I am the Dean of the Frank Batten School of Leadership and Public Policy here at UVA. It's a wonderful, cool fall day here in Charlottesville. I have the privilege to be your child's dean here at UVA, and it really is a privilege. I've had a chance to get to know many of your children, your young adults, and they're kind, smart, funny, hardworking, good-natured most of the time, good human beings. And it's really an honor to be able to get to know them and to work with them. This is a challenging time to be a student. It's a challenging time to be anything at all, I think. But there is no group that I would rather spend this time together with than your children. We think of this community, including our students, alumni, faculty, staff, and you, as a large, diverse, sometimes crazy, mostly loving, deeply committed, supportive family. And perhaps especially now we're all learning, we're all being challenged, we're all building new skills, new knowledge, new connections within this Batten School family. In today's session, we will introduce a few members of the Batten staff, tell you a little bit about the school, and answer any questions that you may have. Once again, I invite you to turn your video on and recommend you keep yourself on mute with your microphone off. And if you'd like to ask a question, please feel free to type that into the chat so that everyone can see it, or if you'd like, you can send it directly as a private chat to Eliza Broadus. Eliza is E-L-I-Z-A, and her name should pop up. The three key messages that I hope you will take away from our time today are, first, that we really have a great team at the Batten School that is working hard to keep your child healthy and safe and engaged physically and emotionally. Second is that it's our goal to provide a transformative learning experience in leadership and public policy that will be valuable to your students across a number of life, community, and career opportunities. And third, that we really appreciate you for your trust, your support, and certainly welcome your engagement as parents in the future of the Batten School. So just a little bit about me. This will be my second year as Dean of the Batten School. In my career before Batten, I've also worked at Yale and at the University of Chicago. I'm trained as a lawyer. I've worked in business, government, international organizations like the World Bank and the International Finance Corporation, higher education. I was part of the Obama administration. I also ran my own conflict resolution business. My family includes my wife, Marcia, my wife of 21 years, and I have an 8-year-old son who just started as a freshman at NYU, and a 14-year-old son who's a freshman in high school here in Charlottesville. And we recently moved into Pavilion 10 on the lawn at UVA, which I can just about see out my window, with our requisite quarantine puppy, and there are lots of puppies in the lawn these days. It's been a real treat to get to know my fellow lawn residents and their puppies, and I hope we can all recognize each other when we finally take our masks off. The Batten School really is a special place here at UVA. For those of you who don't know all the details, and maybe if your kids are like mine, they don't tell you all the details, we have a total of about 170 undergraduate students getting their BA in public policy and leadership, and about 200 graduate students getting their master in public policy degree, either as an accelerated student or as a postgraduate student. And I think on the call today, probably about 2/3 to 3/4 of our parents are parents of students in the BA program, and the remainder are in the MPP program. Our faculty, terrific faculty, which Associate Dean Jay Shimshak will talk about a little bit more later. It's composed of experts in leadership and public policy coming from academic disciplines like economics, psychology, political science, public administration, and law, and coming from careers as both practitioners in local, state, federal, and international policymaking or roles in leadership. Now, I have worked or studied in a number of great academic institutions in my life, but I must tell you, I have not seen any university program take teaching as seriously as we do here at Batten. Every member of our faculty cares about the quality and originality and impact of their teaching. And they generally do develop strong connections with their students and devote amazing energy and care into their relationships as teachers, mentors, and advisors. It is part of the culture here, even as we adapt to a lot more online time and a lot of improvisation to have that same impact in relationships. It really is important to our faculty. Also part of the culture here is how hard we work our students. This is an intense place. And the first year in particular is a little bit like analysis boot camp, where students will spend a lot of their time on quantitative skills. So they have the tools they need to evaluate and understand policy options and effectiveness. You may have heard about a rough year for some of your students last year. And the leadership curriculum is also designed to take students beyond their comfort zones, to stretch their understanding of themselves, of human psychology, of social systems and system dynamics, of the importance of emotional intelligence and contextual intelligence. And along the way, we try to expose students to a variety of real life leaders in many fields, people who are applying their skills and experience and their values in real world contexts. We seek to maintain regular engagement by students with people and with organizations of real influence. This year, most of these conversations with leaders and these policy engagements will take place over Zoom. But many of our students take on important leadership roles here on grounds, both within Batten and for the university as a whole. UVA has a wonderful tradition of student self-governance, and a lot is expected of students in managing the affairs of the institution. And this year, the heads of the honor committee, the judiciary committee are both Batten students, and the student representative to the board of visitors is also a Batten student. I think we may have some of the parents online on the call with us today, so welcome. We take a lot of pride in the work of our students, and we are very much invested in their success, not only during their time here at Batten, but even after they leave. And I like to tell them that Batten will be a part of them for the rest of their lives. I think you should also take a lot of pride as parents. Congratulations. Batten is one of the most competitive and selective programs at UVA. Your kids not only demonstrate extraordinary potential, but they've also chosen to pursue public service and leadership. So before I introduce my colleagues and have them talk about their work, and then we'll also go to questions, but let me show you a few photos of our year getting underway so that you can have a flavor of education in the age of COVID. I will share my screen now and show some photos. Here you can see Garrett Hall at night. This is where we still have many of our classes where I'm sitting right now. It's usually not this time of night that I'm sitting in it, but it's still a beautiful building that we're lucky to have. In fact, we have one of the better classrooms available on grounds today, and you'll see a picture of that in a moment. Here are some students sitting out in some Batten chairs we got for them during the orientation program. You see the rotunda in the background on a beautiful summer day. And an outdoor class discussion with Professor Pennick there in the garden of Pavilion 9. Students socially distant, wearing masks, trying to keep them safe outdoors, but also engaged. Another group discussion. I'll slow down a little bit because sometimes there's a lag when I advance through the photos. We also have outdoor socially distant office hours. So actually this is a picture I took from my window. I can see these tents we've set up on the Garrett Hall roof, where here you see Professor Warburg doing consultation with the student. And these have been very popular with both students and faculty. Here you see one of the classrooms that we use. You'll notice many fewer chairs than normal. You'll see the hand sanitizer and the spray bottles to disinfect the room between classes. And of course, students have to wear masks when they're coming in to be in class, but they are not complaining about it. Here you see a class, one student per table here, another view of the same class. And for some of our larger lecture halls, you see here a Professor Chow giving her talk for Intro to Civic Leadership. You'll see students spread out in the rows in the auditorium. This is in our great hall. This is Professor Davis. You'll see a plexiglass in front of him, so he doesn't have to wear a mask because the plexiglass will protect students. They could read his lips. And here's another picture in the Great Hall with Professor Player and a different group of students. Of course, students are not always in class, and they sometimes need a place to go if they have an in-person class followed by an online class. The university has set up some tents across the lawn and across, in front of Alderman. So here's an example of one of the tents taken at night, but it's lit up at night. I thought that was a pretty photo, but it gives you a sense of our efforts to create outdoor learning and convening spots for students. So let me now introduce the team. In fact, I will ask them to introduce themselves. And then if you have any questions, I can remind you to type them into the chat for us to review at the end, or you can send them to Eliza Broadus. But first we'll hear from Senior Assistant Dean Jill Rockwell. Jill?
Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, I guess. My name is Jill Rockwell, and it's great to be here with you today. Like Dean Solomon, I was trained as an attorney. I actually hail from the Midwest and practiced employment law in Chicago before joining the ranks of college administration. I spent about 10 years working for Duke Law School before joining the Batten School's administration in 2008, back when the school was brand new. And so it's been fun to watch it grow and to see it flourish as it has. Just to echo Dean Solomon's comments, it is really a humbling privilege to work with your students, and it is especially nice today to have the chance to meet with you, their parents. I know I've met a couple of you in the past. It's nice to see you again, but it's really nice to meet you today, even if it's only virtually, and we look forward to the day when we can see you in person again. I oversee the Student and Career Services operation at the Batten School, and I will let my colleague Steve Hiss talk to you a bit later about our highly regarded career services offerings and our students' incredible trajectory of success professionally. But I'm going to first just briefly share with you a bit about our students' co-curricular opportunities for engagement. We have an overall goal of providing meaningful leadership and service-related co-curricular opportunities that strengthen our Batten community. We also believe these experiential opportunities strengthen our students' professional development and then their sense of community in not only the Batten School, but also the greater policy communities. So in a virtual world, we have endeavored to continue to offer some of the long-standing traditional programs that we've offered in the past for the sake of continuity. And then we've also pivoted to offer new programming to connect our students in a virtual world. Some of the existing traditional programs we've continued includes our weekly Batten Hour speaker series, through which speakers, students, faculty, and staff can host nationally acclaimed speakers on topics that range everything from mental health advocacy for veterans to criminal justice reform to this week's Constitution Day programming about the privacy rights of marginalized communities. Last month we worked, well, actually all summer, we worked with our really energetic students, some of whom have parents on this call, to host our 11th annual Batten Builds Day of Service. It was expanded this year to include an entire day of programming, and while it looked different in a virtual world, it was our largest ever, involving nearly 300 participants who spent the morning in workshops learning about various policy challenges facing Charlottesville, and then with small groups planning service activities in the afternoon. It was amazing, very inspiring. Some of our new initiatives include the Batten Corps, which is a program we've designed with student leaders that will divide our BA and MPP student cohorts into smaller groups so that they can get together for safe, socially distant activities. Everything like tubing on the James River or going on a hike, or virtual monthly check-ins that have programming revolving around professional development. Our students are going to be meeting monthly throughout the year in these cohorts with both student and career advisors who will use these settings to help them better their professional skills and will help them network with members of our board and other members of the profession. This idea stemmed from the overwhelming popularity of something we called Socially Distant Summer, where we had meetups with various faculty and staff for events like dog walks, a running club, a 5-week online wellness program, and perhaps the most popular of all, Dean Solomon's Friday evening book club. So as I said, it is our privilege to get to know you. If you ever have a concern about your students' well-being, I hope you will encourage them to contact me, or certainly you can as well. And I'll be sure to share my email in the chat so you can reach me if you need to. Thank you again for the opportunity to work with your students, and we look forward to meeting you someday soon in person.
Great, thank you, Dean Rockwell. Let me now welcome Amanda Crombie, our Director of Academic Programs.
Good afternoon, everybody. As Dean Solomon mentioned, my name is Amanda Crombie, and I am the Director of Academic Programs here at the Batten School. I started at UVA in 2002, 18 years ago. I can't believe it at this point. And I actually started at the Batten School 7 years ago in 2013. So my responsibilities include support for faculty and students revolving around classes and anything academic, as well as academic advising and coordinating graduation requirements so that your students are ready to leave grounds and leave Batten and make their mark on the world. And so my responsibility is to make sure that they are ready and prepared academically to go out and do that. A couple of things to highlight for you as we've started this fall is, as you saw from the pictures that Dean Solomon shared, we have found that our students are thrilled to have the option to be back in the classroom, either in person or in the remote format. They've enjoyed both options and have classes in both formats as well. We spent a significant period of time this summer really researching best practices and being prepared for virtual and the hybrid model of instruction. You may have heard from your students that there are challenges in both models, but we've worked really hard to limit those as much as possible and make it the best experience for your student. At the beginning of the semester, each cohort has had at least one in-person course, and all of their other courses have been offered in the remote option. Even courses that are offered in person are offered in what we call the hybrid model, and I mentioned that earlier, but that's where there are some students in person and some students remote. We have had to adjust and adapt along the way. We've constantly been surveying and monitoring our students and our faculty to make sure that they are getting the best educational experience possible. And we've done some trials to move a couple of courses into that remote format right now as a trial, but hopefully moving them back into that hybrid model once we can get a couple other pieces in place. We've also worked really hard, I mentioned surveying our students and working with our students, but checking in with them on making sure that the faculty and the students and everybody that they're interacting with is really working to promote the COVID-19 mitigation measures that the university has put in place and making sure that they're being adhered to in the classroom. We have heard great response from that, and students are very thankful for the promotion of those measures, but also that everybody's working hard to really stay in person and be a part of the community in that way. We are also working incredibly hard to accommodate students that have needs that arise academically or personally, as Dean Rockwell mentioned. We have challenges that are faced daily, not only with COVID-19, but also just generally if a student becomes ill. And so if things happen and we have disruptions, we are going to work with your students individually to make sure that they have the accommodations that they need and the ability to progress in their coursework as they need to. At this time, it's my pleasure to turn it over to Associate Dean Jay Shimshak. He's also a faculty member on our faculty here, and he's going to tell you a little bit more about classes, definitely from the faculty perspective.
Thank you, Amanda. And hi, everybody. It's wonderful to be here. As Amanda mentioned, I'm Jay Shimshak. I'm a professor of public policy and economics and the Associate Dean for Academic Affairs at the Batten School. In that latter role, I work with Dean Solomon, Amanda, and our academic affairs team, as well as our faculty to oversee teaching, research, and public engagement at the school. My goal for today is to basically just communicate a message from our faculty, which I might summarize as they're incredibly thrilled to have your students back in class. It's incredibly energizing to be engaging again with your students and with students in general. I want you to know that our faculty are working very hard to connect with your students, regardless of how they're teaching their classes, but to connect individually and in small groups over Zoom, in socially distanced office hour spaces, in socially distanced outdoor spaces, on classwork, on research, on pressing public policy challenges, etc. Our 6 research and public engagement centers addressing global policy, leadership, national security, effective lawmaking, education policy, social entrepreneurship, and other issues continue to develop new and ongoing partnerships with Batten students, including many of your students. I acknowledge that these are challenging times for us all, but the honest truth is each and every day really is a reminder of the importance of what we do at the Batten School of Leadership and Public Policy. It is a clear reminder that never has there been a greater need for ethical and engaged leaders that we train here in the school, as well as solutions to difficult public policy problems. I will say while I'm chatting is that Craig Lindquist, our Associate Dean for Administration, is regrettably unable to be here with us today. He sends his regards to all of you. And in addition, he's asked me to say just a few words about infrastructure and safety in the school in his absence. We just want you to know that we're partnering with teams across all of campus to provide a safe, clean, and conducive learning environment for in-person classes and for a maximally effective online learning environment. The school is providing tools and resources to support both hybrid classes and virtual education. We're working incredibly hard to support our students from, as Dean Solomon mentioned, from reconfiguring our main school building so that we now host one of the largest tech-enabled hybrid classrooms on the entire campus, which is solely for use by Batten students, to creating tent-based outdoor spaces for advising and safe one-on-one interactions between professors, students, and more. As Amanda mentioned, we're ensuring that university-wide safety protocols are being followed in our community. That includes the use of face masks, social distancing, hand hygiene, etc. We want you to know that our extensive cleaning routines aim to minimize the spread of COVID and support in-person interactions, dialogue, and learning wherever possible. So in short, the basic message is we're incredibly excited to have your students in our class, and we're working super hard to maximize the learning environment and to make it as safe as possible for your students. So with that, I will turn it over to Steve Hiss.
Thank you very much, Dean Shimshak. Before I begin, let me say how much of a pleasure it is for me to look down the list at all of your names. I recognize many of those names. I've even met with a few of your students within the past few days. So it really is great to, at least in this environment, meet all of you. As far as my background, I spent 30 years in the US Air Force, actually ending my career here on grounds as the commander of the Air Force ROTC detachment. I retired 4 years ago this month and started at the Batten School in the Career Services Office in January of 2017. As Dean Rockwell indicated, I fall within her division, and we have a great group of 4 individuals with a very diverse background. As she said, she's a lawyer. I have a background in the military and the federal government. Our Assistant Director of Career Services has a master's degree in counseling, and she's been in the career services role and student services role at 2 different universities over the past nearly 10 years. And even our graduate intern, who's getting her master's degree in education, just came from being a corporate recruiter with Qualcomm. And so she's been on the other side of this equation, and she's a great resource because obviously reviewing resumes and applications is all she's been doing for the past few years. So I mention that just so you get an appreciation of the fact that we have a team of 4 dedicated professionals with very diverse backgrounds and decades of experience mentoring, and advising students. We help your students with all aspects of their internship and post-graduation searches. We help them explore the range of options to include service organizations such as the Peace Corps or Teach for America, graduate school, fellowships, and of course, full-time jobs. We help them identify individual opportunities within those various sectors, be it federal, state, local government, private companies, consulting firms, and/or non-governmental, nonprofit organizations. We help your students prepare the cover letters, resumes, writing samples, and personal statements, as well as conduct mock interviews with them. We connect with employers, including Batten and UVA alumni, to develop opportunities and understand their requirements and hiring processes and timelines. I will recognize that these are stressful times in many ways, but things are not as bleak as I think many people believe they are. For those of you with children in the Master of Public Policy program, I assume are aware they had a requirement to have an internship this past summer, and all 88 of our 88 second-year MPP students completed that internship this past summer and fulfilled that requirement for their graduation this coming May. Although our bachelor's students don't have a requirement for an internship, of course, many of them do want to complete an internship, and we work with them equally as hard to help them fulfill that desire. And as far as our May 2020 graduates, and I know that those of you that have kids will be graduating in May, our graduates from past May, 70% of them already have what we call a first destination, which means they're either working full-time or they've gone on to graduate school or law school or some of those volunteer or service organizations I mentioned. And believe it or not, 70% is about par for the course. Public policy graduates typically can take up to 6 months to kind of find the right fit and get to an organization that they'd like to work for. And even now, Dean Rockwell and I, about once or twice a week, are hearing from, I heard from one yesterday who got a full-time job on Capitol Hill, which of course is tough no matter what's going on in the world. So the bottom line is we are here to help your students. And so I would encourage you to encourage them to come see us. And now I'll turn it over to Jeff Chittister, who is the Executive Director of our External Affairs.
Thank you, Steve. As he mentioned, my name's Jeff Chittister. I joined the Batten School back in December of 2016 after 13 years at UVA's Miller Center, the last 5 of which were spent leading the center's work with national policymakers. The reason I came to Batten was that I realized the policy world was not suffering from a lack of good ideas. It was suffering from a lack of good leaders, ethical, evidence-based leaders who were passionate about serving the public good. That's the driving force behind the Batten School. And your children remind me every single day that I made the right choice, that while the policy world may seem irredeemably broken at times, they convince me that the future is actually quite bright. As the Dean mentioned, this really is a special place. One of the key offices within External Affairs is the Office of Admissions. So many of your children work closely with the 2 other members of our team, Ann Carter Mulligan, who's our Director of Undergraduate Programs, and Courtney Leisten-Snyder, our Assistant Director. And I imagine they had great experiences working with Ann and Courtney. My role in recruitment is primarily with students who enter our postgraduate MPP program. So first and foremost, I want to thank you for the role you've played in nurturing an exceptional group of students that entered Batten last fall. Your kids are not just part of an academic program. They're part of a lifelong community, one that's committed to developing the next generation of public leaders who are going to be the architects of meaningful change in the policy world. Everyone that comes into the Batten School obviously has good grades. They have good test scores, but it's so much more than that. We don't think in terms of who do we want to educate for the next 2 years. We think about who do we want in this special community for 30, 40, 50 years and beyond. And that's what we saw and continue to see in your children, the motivation to be change agents, the potential to be leaders of consequence. So again, I thank you for your role in that. I thank you for the kids that you brought into our community. And as always, if you need anything from our office, please don't ever hesitate to ask. So let me turn it over to Erin Torr, who is our Director of Communications. Erin?
Thanks so much, Jeff, and thank you everyone for being here today. As Jeff mentioned, my name is Erin Torr, and I'm the Director of Communications at the Batten School. I've been at the Batten School for about 3 years. Before that, I was doing communications for the Peace Corps under the Obama administration and a girls' education initiative with First Lady Michelle Obama. I also did communications with the Mayor of DC. So all of that is just to tell you that I'm very passionate about public service, which I know drives a lot of your children too. And I'm so thrilled to get to work with our students at Batten, who really are our next generation of policy leaders. So it's our privilege in the Office of Communications to get to tell the remarkable and really evolving story of the Batten School. And this includes the stories of our students, as well as all of the individuals who make up the Batten community. And this semester, it's especially important to us that we're really utilizing the school's digital platforms to help keep our students engaged with one another, as well as that larger community. My office also oversees the school's Office of Events, and my colleague Millie Hicks, who is our events coordinator. Millie is often working closely with our students to host student-facing events, and especially this semester with our many digital events, she and I are working to make sure our students are participating in events and staying connected in that way. So thank you again for joining us and for allowing us to work with your wonderful children. I will turn it over now to my colleague Jeff Egling, who's our Director of Development.
Thank you, Erin. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jeff Egling, and I am the Director of Development at the Batten School. Myself and a total team of 6, we spend our time working to connect with a lot of outside constituencies, primarily alumni of the Batten School and parents, friends, and other supporters and folks with interest in the work that we do. In an ideal world, that involves communications, events, but primarily lots of travel, both domestically and elsewhere, to have a cup of coffee in your hometown or a cocktail in the evening and get to know you, our alums, and folks again who are interested in this work and making it possible. So at some point in the not too distant future, hopefully we can get back to that, but it is a pleasure getting to see you all here digitally at least. Working with Dean Solomon and his team, the charge that we've been given is to make Batten simply financially feasible for everybody. Is as one of the newest policy schools in the country, and until very recently, the newest school on grounds, we are sort of building the infrastructure financially that allows for Batten to do the work that it does and be an option for, students and families from all walks of life and backgrounds. And beyond that, we're working to support the faculty that we currently have in their pursuit of teaching and research excellence, and helping equip Ian and Jay and others to go out and recruit even more of those wonderful faculty members to do the same. As you can imagine, this work's always been vital to Batten, and it is in higher education throughout. But given the circumstances we all find ourselves in, I would say it's probably as important as it ever has been. So much of what we're able to do, including the internships that Steve mentioned over the summer, are often made possible by outside constituencies and friends of the school. So we're excited to get to know you. We hope that sometime, and again, not too distant future, we can at least connect on Zoom or the phone, and then maybe follow that up with a chance to have a conversation somewhere down the line in your backyard. But thank you again for being here. And Ian Solomon, I will turn it back to you.
Great, thank you, Jeff. So as Dean, I really feel fortunate to have this great team to work with. And I think our students, your children, our students are also very fortunate. We're working differently than we have ever worked before, and every person here is devoted to the teaching, research, and public engagement that we do at the Batten School. So I want to turn to questions in just a moment and remind you if you can type them into the chat or send them to Eliza Broadus. And as you do that, let me just highlight three final messages. One is we are on a mission to be the most impactful school of leadership and public policy in the world. We believe we can make a significant contribution to the quality of leadership and also the quality of evidence-based decision-making, particularly for diverse and divided communities around the world. We believe this mission is urgent. We believe it's important. And we're honored to be on this journey with you and with your children. To do this, we are constantly adapting and innovating, changing our pedagogy, our program, working to remove financial barriers for students, and trying to make this community as diverse as the world in which our students will be called to lead. And building upon and building this extraordinary faculty with diverse scholars, practitioners, and world-class teachers. Second message, we really do welcome your feedback. We welcome your support at every step of the way. We know many of you are leaders in your own fields and your own professions. Engage with us, attend our events, consider creating internships or hiring our graduates. And if you're in a position to do so, please consider supporting us philanthropically so that we can improve our student scholarship resources and bring on and deepen our faculty excellence. The third message is please stay safe. As I repeatedly tell our students these days, please take care of yourselves, please take care of each other. And remember that at the heart of the work we are doing is a commitment to improving people's lives through knowledge, through the cultivation of ethical leaders. So take care of each other. We're grateful for your time this morning and look forward to answering your questions if you have any. So let me turn to Jeff and Eliza, who can let us know what questions we've received.
Thank you again, Ian. So I will go ahead and read through questions that are submitted. Again, if you'd like to submit questions privately, you're welcome to do so to Eliza. Otherwise, if you post them publicly in the chat, I can see those as well. And Ian, we have two so far, so I will go ahead and distribute those out. And Steve Hiss, you are up first. What changes in light of COVID restrictions are you making to assist students seeking out and applying for jobs for those graduating Batten this spring?
Sure. So the biggest change, obviously, is everything is being done virtually for two primary reasons. One, because the university guidance that we do things socially distant, and two, the organizations and the companies themselves are generally under travel restrictions. And so in past years, their recruiters might come to UVA and spend some time here, but they are prevented from doing that now by their organization's policies. So the main career center, Batten, all of the schools have basically moved to a virtual environment. What I will say though is, first of all, one-on-one advising is pretty much just as effective through this medium as it is in person. Because I think sitting in my office with a mask on and me having to put time between each session and clean the space would actually make us less efficient. So I think we can actually be just as efficient online. As far as events, we are doing as many, if not more events than ever. I mean, this week alone is Intel and National Security Week. I did 3 events yesterday in cooperation with the UVA Career Center. And so all of the events we normally do, we are doing, and we are, wherever we can, looking to host events that we haven't done in the past. For instance, 2 weeks from today, we're very close to one of our board members works for Facebook, and she's got 3 UVA alums pretty much lined up who all do public policy for Facebook. So we're going to host a session for public policy opportunities in the tech industry. And that will be a first. We haven't done that event in the past. So I think we're doing as much as we have, and we're trying to do as much as we can within the constraints of doing things virtually.
Thank you, Steve. Ian, you are up next. This question was, our son was registered to study with Dean Solomon in his seminar this fall, but that was canceled. Does Dean Solomon plan to teach that seminar this upcoming spring semester?
I certainly hope so, and I regret that I did cancel it or postpone it. It's a class that I was preparing on race, equity, and leadership. I think it's an important class and lots of really important readings and materials that I'm putting together. It did hit me though towards the end of the summer that to help the school on all the issues I need to be helping the school on, that the attention required for that class was going to suffer. So I decided to postpone it. Hopefully I will offer it this spring because I think it remains just as important, even as I adapt some of the materials in light of the work I've done for the university on the Racial Equity Task Force that completed its report in early August. So, but if you're a student, I am going to be continuing some version of the book club, non-credit, non-evaluative, just I'll share some readings with students and generally books that I haven't read myself, and we'll learn together. So we will be renewing that, and I encourage the parent whose child wanted to take my class to also take the book club.
Thank you, Ian. All right. I think that's probably best for Amanda Crombie. Do strictly virtual classes still have a chance to meet the professor in a socially distanced setting as shown in the pictures?
Absolutely. So we have courses that are meeting totally virtually for the academic content portion, but all of our faculty have done expanded office hours and are interested in doing extra work to have socially distanced outdoor office hours. If you have a student who is interested in that and they have had a chance to reach out to their professor or haven't had a chance to reach out to their professor, I would suggest that they do so. And faculty are very happy to meet socially distanced, either in the tents on the green roof at Garrett Hall or other places around grounds. We had a faculty member on Friday who Dean Solomon and I ran into, who had done office hours just outside of a lawn room for one of our MPP students who is living on the lawn. So it's been really exciting to see all of the opportunities that faculty are taking to meet with students outdoors and in different areas.
Thank you very much. This one could go, why don't we start with Jill here? And this is, my daughter Maya is applying to law school. I like that Steve mentioned assistance to students with plans to go to graduate school. Can she get help with her personal statement for law school applications?
Yes. In fact, I've been spending a lot of time. We've had a lot of even our graduates who are like, I'm stuck in my room, so I decided I'm going to study for the LSAT. So we have been doing a lot of pre-law advising. And I like to think that with some former lawyers and former law school administrators on staff, we try to give our students, even maybe a higher level of sort of nuance in our advising. So certainly with things like resumes and personal statements, but we have a program in the works that I think is going to involve law school admissions folks from, we're trying to do a coast-to-coast panel with someone from USC, Michigan, Duke, and someone in the Northeast coming up soon that will hopefully give kind of insider tips to students, not necessarily on how to best position themselves, because I think we do that pretty well, but some of the sort of hidden aspects of law schools that people should be looking at that sort of aren't necessarily reflected in the US News rankings, which is what students tend to look at. So we have a cool program in the works, and we love working with students on their pre-law applications. So please send her my way.
Thank you very much. Steve, you are popular today. No surprise there. So let's go with, do we have any sense of the status of international opportunities, Fulbrights, NGOs, et cetera?
Right, and I can see that question in the chat too. So those obviously are kind of distinct opportunities. First of all, international travel is still quite difficult, if not prohibited. So while students are still at UVA, then they're subject to UVA policies, which is putting some limits on international travel. I am aware that some folks had Fulbrights, and not necessarily Batten students, that were also impacted. So there's no question that taking advantage of overseas opportunities right now is a challenge. In fact, I've had a number of sessions lately with students who want to consider an internship next summer overseas. And of course, you know, it's 9 months away and we're not sure how things are going to turn out. And so I'm working with them on that, but I'm also talking about, okay, what's plan B and plan C if we get to March or April and UVA will not allow you to travel outside the country for COVID restrictions. There is an Office of Citizen Scholar Development at UVA, which specializes in Fulbrights and Rhodes scholarships and such. So whenever I come across students who are interested in those types of fantastic opportunities, I always encourage them to contact Andres Ashu, who runs that office, and it's really their full-time job to help our great UVA students take advantage of those opportunities. As far as non-governmental and international development type opportunities, again, the current COVID environment is having an impact on some of those organizations. I will also say, is particularly for international development, it's somewhat of a chicken and egg type of industry in that they want people with experience to be able to join many of those organizations. But of course, how do you get experience if you can't join one of those organizations? So that is a trickier goal for students coming right out of their undergraduate or accelerated MPP degree. But there are companies out there like Chemonics, and the UN is out there, and there are other agencies and organizations that students can go to gain some of that experience in that area. But I'll be perfectly honest, it's a challenging first step, and students need to be pretty persistent and apply to a lot of places for those opportunities to develop.
Don't bother muting, you're back up. All right. To what degree does the Career Services Office work with local governments, either individually or through such organizations such as the Virginia Association of Counties or the Virginia Municipal League?
Sure. Well, we certainly have a relationship with the Thomas Jefferson District Planning Commission, because Mr. Baxter, that's where your son was this past summer. And he was a Bocock Fellowship recipient as well. So we work with everybody to find as many opportunities as we can. And this summer was a great example because as many of you know, your children might have had internships that fell through or other opportunities that didn't pan out. And we reached out to Albemarle County Public Schools, Albemarle County, the City of Charlottesville, Richmond Public Schools, and actually ended up with nearly a dozen internships, I think, at all of those local organizations. And your students did quite well, as often they do. And I'm now in communication with HR in Albemarle County to pretty much permanently establish a relationship for both our undergraduate and our graduate students, not only for summer internships, but there is somewhat of a desire for maybe even some internships during the school year. As you can imagine, state and local government budgets are severely constrained right now. And so I think they look at an internship as a mutually beneficial arrangement for them and the student.
Thank you. I would even piggyback up on that just because it does fall sort of in a little bit of my area is oftentimes when we're getting to know families and donors and board members, they bring with them existing relationships to a lot of organizations. So we absolutely welcome those connections for the sake of our students and their employment and are happy to make connections with whoever you may know in your networks who might be helpful to our students and Steve's work. All right, Dean Solomon. Oh, I don't see anything else. So we've got about 5+ minutes or so if you'd like to wrap us up.
Yeah, no, well, thank you all for joining us today. Thank you for your questions. Thank you, Grace, for your book club suggestion, The Color of Law. Thank you to those who sent lovely private chats to me during this discussion. Most importantly, thank you for your students and for being a part of this Batten School family and any support that you provide to them or can provide to us. This is a challenging time, demanding a lot from all of us, and we will continue to do our best because we deeply care about making this an extraordinary learning experience, an impactful place of research and knowledge creation and a supportive community. As you hear from my colleagues answering questions here, we put a lot of our hearts into building something really special and making sure that every single one of your students, you know, has the very best shot at a great career and meaningful impact on the world in public policy and leadership, or whatever their heart directs them towards. So thank you. Please take good care, and please keep in regular contact. And with that, I will close today's session with a lot of appreciation. Take care.